Sup, everybody. Mark and I took over. We stole the show.
We kicked out Georgia, Doug.
Yeah,
we were sick of them. They didn't know enough about football. We decided we were the film nerds.
George and Doug have some prior plans, but the Washington Commanders are in the conference championship game, so I feel like we have to talk about the film, about what happens. So, yeah, the two of us are just going to ramble, and we're just going to pretty much talk about how great Jane Daniels is. And I hope I'm doing this right, and I think we're good to go. If I can pull this up. There we go. And I got to get rid of.
You got to get rid of there. We go.
We can do it all.
You can run the show. We don't need Jordan.
We can do it all on our own.
Right. So, well, we're talking about Jaden Daniels. He was good. Very good. And he was a big part of the reason why they beat the Lions. And so I thought we'd look at some of the best stuff that he did. And one of the things that was one of the big talking points or the big storylines coming out of that game was just how good Jaden Daniels was against the blitz. There were some insane stats. I don't know if you remember what the stat line was, but he was phenomenal against the blitz.
We had him. PFF had him with a 97 under pressure grade, which is absurd. That just means you basically didn't make a single mistake. Yeah, he was fantastic.
So I thought I would show some of the things that he did against the blitz, because you see a lot of quarterbacks are able to beat a blitz one way. And this guys with Jaden Daniels' skill set, typically it's, being able to scramble around and avoid sacks and run away from the blitz. And there was a little bit of that, but he also had the mental side down. So I thought we'd start here. This is the fourth play of the game, and we've got for the Commanders' offense at least, and we've got a blitz from the Lions. They're sending both this linebacker Alex Anzalone here, and they're bringing Brian Branch off of the slot. Now, there's no real indication that
I was going to ask you that, because I posted this same play, and I watched it 100 times. I have no idea how he figured out that Anzalone was going to blitz, and I was hoping you had an answer.
No, I don't have an answer for it either. My answer is he must have seen it on film study this week. That's all it can be, is that he's done a ton of film study and seen that this look means the Lions are going to blitz. But yeah, so interesting part about this is a 21 pony personnel. So 21 pony is 21 is two running backs, one tight end, and pony means that the two running backs, rather than having a running back and a fullback as you traditionally have in a 21 set, you've got 21 pony is two running backs. So you got Austin Eckler here almost as a tight end, and you got Jeremy McNichols in the backfield. Now what Jaden Daniels is going to do, and what you can already see him here, is he's pointing at. And I know at this angle, it looks like he's pointing at Jack Campbell in the middle, but he's actually pointing at Alex Anzalone here. And he's emphasizing he's going to blitz. I want the line sliding that way towards him to pick him up. And you'll see it as we run on, the line will communicate that, and they slide it towards Anzalone, get it picked up. The important part here is you've also got Austin Eckler on this side. He's gonna chip Brian Branch as he's blitzing, and then he's going to go out to the flat. So we'll run this play through, and you can see Jaden Daniels goes up to the line, and he's like, yeah, I want the line sliding towards Anzalone. And you can see the line will communicate it, and they snap the ball. And just before the snap, turns out Jaden Daniels is absolutely right. Anzalone suddenly walks up towards the edge, and he's going to blitz off the edge. And they've got the whole line sliding that way, and he's able to get picked up. Beautifully done.
If you go back, like right as he walks up.
Yep.
Before he points it, or after he points it out, you can just keep it playing. Right at that point, that's when a quarterback would usually be able to tell, hey, he's blitzing, let's move the line this way. But he already figured it out. And so he's already got it set up. I don't know what the play clock is, but I would assume they're kind of running out of time. But usually this would kind of, set some sort of panic in. You see him kind of walking down late, but he already picked it up pre-snap. So they're all ready to go and have it picked up perfectly.
Yeah. And so they pick that up. On the other side of the line, you've got Jeremy McNichols. Obviously, Eckler chips Brian Branch, and then McNichols slides across and picks him up. And then Eckler's going to release out to the flat freely. Now, the Lions are playing a an interesting coverage behind
you don't see a cover 2 zone pressure very often.
Yeah,
But they kind of had to do this with their lack of bodies, and this is what they were doing
absolutely.
a ton. But it's like a Tampa 2 zone pressure, which
Tampa 2 with no hook zones. It's very, very interesting. And yeah, you're right. You don't see it very often, but you see as Jaden gets to the top of his drop, he's got his 2 outside receivers running vertical. They've got 2 deep safeties that should be able to match those, and 2 underneath guys that could sink under them. You got Jack Campbell in the middle of the field here, matching Zach Ertz on his crossing route. So those 3 routes are all dead. His protection's holding up fairly well. He's got McNichols about to pick up Brian Branch, and so he can just calmly be like, okay, I've worked through, I understand what's happening here. I can just check this down to Austin Eckler, and you can see there is so much space here in the flat for Austin Eckler as he dumps this off. There's no defender within 10 yards of him, and Eckler is good enough to use that space and avoid some tackles and turn it into a 24-yard gain. And that, it seems like it's a really big play from Eckler, and it is a good play from Eckler, but it comes from the fact that Jaden Daniels is so mentally aware of, hey, this guy's blitzing, even though there is absolutely zero tell that he's blitzing.
He's not stacked on top of a defensive back. He's not like there's no key here. He's just in his gap, and
he's just sat in his normal position. He's not like on his toes. He's just leaning as he normally would.
I mean, maybe he's a step closer than Campbell, but that's about it. I mean,
but they get that line sliding that way. You can see Cosme saying, "Hey, we're sliding that way," and that's what they do. Eckler's not sure exactly what he's doing over here, but he figures that out eventually, and they get that line slide, and you see they pick everything up this way. I mean, Nichols comes across and blocks Brian Branch, and Jaden Daniels, the mental process gets him a wide open Austin Eckler, and as you can see at this point when he catches the ball, there is nobody on the screen defensively.
It's I kind of tweeted out after the play. I said this, like, not all checkdowns are created equal. Like sometimes you rush to a checkdown, or sometimes like nothing's open and you finally get to a checkdown or whatever. But that was all because Jaden figured it out pre-snap, and the Lions were in a 3 under 2 deep coverage, which if you don't get home, you're going to get gashed like that. And then Eckler made some people miss.
Yep. So that was one example of how we beat the blitz. Here we have another one. This one was much later in the game. Lions kind of disguise a cover 0 here. They've got 2 safeties back deep, and it looks kind of just like a normal coverage. Maybe you get a little bit of an indicator of it with Brian Branch's depth over the slot. But there's nothing that hugely gives away that it's cover 0, and they disguise it quite well. And Washington's running this little, I call it an arrow concept with or you might call it a snag with a outside receiver spotting up in between a corner route from Ertz and a flat route from the running back. Now in cover 0, for those that don't know, the defense has no safety help. So they have 1 defender assigned to each eligible receiver. So you got McLaurin man-to-man here. You got Crowder, I think it is in the slot there, man-to-man. Ertz will have 1 of the safeties. De'Ami Brown over here will have this corner. And then I think actually this safety ends up guarding.
Usually you can have, with like the safeties and linebackers like this, especially if they're disguising it, they'll kind of read based on like one guy will have the widest player and then the other guy will have the innermost player.
Sure. So yeah, that's they have 5 defenders assigned for all 5 eligibles, and everyone else is going to blitz. So these front 4 are going to blitz, and it's going to be the 2 linebackers that are going to end up joining the blitz. So that effectively guarantees the defense is able to bring 1 more rusher than the offense can block, which makes the quarterback have to throw quickly. Now, as we'll run this through, you'll see there's that safety rotation. And it's kind of making it look like, oh, he's coming down to cover Zach Ertz. But he's actually coming down to cover, I think it's McNichols in the backfield. And then you've got this safety is actually going to cover Zach Ertz. And this is the safety that came in midway through the game. I think he played like 3 snaps all year. He was a rookie. And he was obviously someone they wanted to target. And you'll see that here. So as we get to the snap, you can see both linebackers come, the front 4 come. Jaden Daniels pretty quickly recognizes it's cover 0. And his first instinct is to throw this flat, which is pretty much the right instinct against cover zero. It's okay, I'm getting blitzed. I need to go to my hot route, which would either be De'Ami Brown or more likely the running back in the flat, especially as the back's not staying in to protect. He's free releasing, so he would typically become the hot route. However, Jaden Daniels recognizes that he's got a little bit of time. He's not hugely under pressure immediately. He shortens up his drop and he's ready to throw this now. But he also knows that I've got an extra second here and I can see this safety is buzzing down to the flat. I'm not going to get anything out of it. But what I do have is that rookie safety that's played like 3 snaps all year, trying to cover my veteran former All-Pro tight end Zach Ertz running with
a leverage advantage as well because he's starting from the inside.
Huge leverage advantage, and there's no rusher that's just about to hit him. He has the time to reset, so he takes the opportunity and he resets. And you see he resets his feet to align to Ertz. He drops back a little bit. He takes a little bit of a hop step backwards just to give himself that little bit of extra time before these extra rushers get there. And he throws over the top of them before those guys arrive. And you can see Ertz is doing the smart thing of flattening off to break away from this coverage. And Daniels finds him.
That was on like a second and 12 or second 15 or something like that as well.
Yeah, it was 2nd and 12, and they got 10 yards on the play to get it to 3rd and 2. So they made it 3rd and manageable.
Also, if you go back just to this end zone view, it's a really good job from the offensive line. We've kind of shown in the past that sometimes they've struggled, like the tackles have kind of struggled if they have to work down a gap. And because they're all in their spot and you see Wiley, he works down a gap and lets the outside guy free, it gives Jaden more time because you just always leave the outside guy just because he has a longer route basically. You take the most dangerous man, and they also pick up the cross dog from the linebackers as well, and it's really well done.
Yeah, and just to demonstrate what you're talking about there, you've got the defensive end is stunting inside because you get in the – oh, no, this is the defensive end. The defensive tackle was lined up quite wide. He was stunting inside, and Wiley slides inside to pick him up because they recognize it's cover zero with both linebackers are blitzing. So that means this guy is going to be free off the edge, and Jaden Daniels is responsible for him. And so you see that.
Really good job by Coleman, too. That one I think is a little bit harder because I don't think he's got anyone in front of him. And he's kind of quickly helps out Allegretti.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have anyone lined up in front of him. And with the linebackers blitzing.
And they've got the defensive tackle stunts wide to him, and the linebackers do that cross dog stunt as you talked about. So he squeezes inside to help Allegretti. That does unfortunately mean they get a second free rusher off of this side, but again, it's shoring up the inside, giving Jaden Daniels the most possible time to get the ball out. And then
it's on the quarterback to beat the free rusher.
Exactly. And he doesn't just beat it; he beats it emphatically with that throw to Ertz when he could have just taken the flat for a few yards. So that is Jaden Daniels beating the blitz with his arm and with his mind. He does also have the luxury of being able to beat it with his legs, which means whenever teams blitz him, he has multiple ways to beat them, and there's not many quarterbacks in the league that offer you that. And so this is a great example. This time, I think they catch him a little bit by surprise. I think he spots it coming late, but they're going to have Brian Branch and Jack Campbell both adding to the rush off of this left-hand side of the line, and they're going to be overloaded because the front four are also rushing. And they're trying to run the pair concept to that one we just saw, the arrow concept. This one's known as bow because you have a basic cross instead of a corner route, and you take the B from the basic cross and add it to the arrow, you get bow. So that
arrow bow, football's very simple when it's broken down.
Yeah. So that's the concept they're trying to run. It is the pair to the one we saw earlier. But what you'll see is that these guys come free off the edge, and then Jaden just decides, I'll just put my cape on and go in superhero mode. And they get, again, you see that squeeze inside from Coleman picking up the linebacker blitz, but that means the end and Brian Branch both come off it free. And you would often see a lot of quarterbacks know they get this free rusher and start panicking and immediately running out there. But you can see Jaden's kind of calm about this. He's just kind of rolling backwards and he's looking for a receiver because he knows if he needs it, he's got the speed to just run away from this blitz that not many people do. But once he realizes, okay, I haven't got either of these two options, they've covered the flat pretty well. Okay, it's on me here. I need to go superhero mode, and he just accelerates from Brian Branch and turns what could have been for most people a sack into I think it was a 14-yard gain on 2nd and 9. So, and at this point, it looks like most quarterbacks would be getting sacked at this point, and he just turns on the jets, gets away from him. Nice little block from De'Ami Brown there. Slight block in the back, but I
was going to mention that.
we'll let him off, and Jaden gets 14 yards and a first down. So that was a couple of examples of him beating the blitz, and obviously it was a big part of the game. The Lions, their whole game plan was, well, we love to blitz anyway, but we are also very, very hurt, especially in the secondary, and so we're just going to lean into that we like to blitz and try to force the issue because we know our coverage isn't going to hold up if we don't blitz. So that was a big part of the game, but it wasn't all of the game. And Jaden Daniels showed again that kind of clutch gene that he has proven that he has this year. In big situations, 3rd down, 4th down, he has the ability to stay calm and find completions and move the chains. So this was a 3rd and 10. It was either the opening drive or the second drive. I can't remember which one. But they go empty formation, and you get a chains concept. So essentially, everyone's getting to the first down marker, and they're all breaking back to the ball at different spots and at slightly different depths to try to give the quarterback options. And the one he's going to go to here is Jamison Crowder in the slot. So first down marker is here, the 45. I've given the nice yellow line like you do get on the TV. And we'll run this one through, and you'll see the mental process that helps him get to this. So we know Jaden's go-to guys in 3rd and 4th down are Terry McLaurin and Zach Ertz. Now, Terry McLaurin's on the outside, and he's running a slightly deeper route. So that's not one he's going to come to first. He's obviously going to go to Zach Ertz first over the middle, as we've seen him do quite a lot. But the Lions are in a 3 buzz coverage. So it's cover 3. You get 3 deep defenders and 4 underneath guys, but you get it from a 2 deep look where 1 safety buzzes down underneath and joins the 4 under. And this safety ends up buzzing down and anticipating this ball going to Ertz, so he kind of runs straight at Ertz and tries to take it away. So Jaden Daniels is naturally going to see, okay, I don't have Ertz, so I'm going to work out towards McLaurin. I'm going to go to my left. And what he sees when he gets here, I think I drew it up. I did. Where he's got Jamison Crowder breaking off here just inside of Terry McLaurin. Now, a lot of quarterbacks would be hesitant. They'd see this flash of blue, Brian Branch, I think it is, in the slot, being pretty close to Crowder and be like, I can't throw that in there. But what we've seen quite a few times this year from Jaden, and something that he's done really, really well, is making throws based off of leverage. And what you can see here is Brian Branch has his hips open inside, likely looking at who he thinks the ball's going to, Zach Ertz, because that's normally their go-to guy in these situations. So his hips are inside, his helmet's inside, his shoulders are facing inside. So Jaden knows that if I throw this ball out here, this guy is close, but he's got to flip his hips and then close on him. So I've actually got, it's actually more open than it looks. And that's what the decision he decides to make. He very quickly sees that safety or corner nickel defender's leverage gives him an opportunity to throw this, when if he had his hips flipped the other way, that's way too close a window to even try throwing. And it probably takes away your throw to McLaurin slightly outside of it as well. But those hips based inside, the vision inside, means that Crowder's in a blind spot and he can throw this outside. And so that's what Jaden does. And he throws it outside. And lo and behold, he gets the ball to Jamison Crowder before Brian Branch is able to flip his hips and close, and they pick up that first down.
Yeah, defenders' hips, the hips don't lie, basically. Their eyes can lie, but and I think that's one thing that I've been really impressed with him throughout this whole season, is him kind of quickly picking up on that sort of stuff. And again, this is stuff that it usually takes guys a while to pick up on. It's going to take multiple reps. It's going to take multiple seasons for them to understand that, hey, this guy's got his back, not back turned, but he's got his back closed, and it's just going to be harder for him to flip, get to the receiver in time and make a play on the ball. And here he's not even really close. So like, and he had Terry as well, but that's a farther throw. Yep. You've got Jameson right at the first down marker. Hips are closed to him, and he's got the arm strength to make it easily. So he's just, I don't know. He's playing at a level that you don't ever see from a rookie quarterback.
No, especially those type of throws. Like you see some tight window throws where it's like, they've just taken a shot. They're trying to force it in there and they've got lucky. Mm-hmm. But Jaden's not doing that. He's making tight window throws based on leverage, and you see it consistently over and over again, especially down the stretch this season. In big situations like the touchdown that beat the Eagles a few weeks ago, at the end, he threw that based on leverage with Zach Bond's back facing him. And you've seen that a couple times this year in those big spots, and that was another one.
We kind of talked about it a little bit on other shows, but sometimes in the first quarter and like first down plays, there are moments where he can make those sort of throws, and he just kind of doesn't, and he's a little bit safer with the ball, and that's perfectly fine. But on third and fourth down, he can make it every single time, and he does, and it shows that he can anticipate. And anyone that said he couldn't, it's just wrong.
That was an early 3rd and 10 that he converted. This is late on in the game. I think it was the 4th and 2. And they
mesh
go
rail.
Mesh rail, a very well-known air raid favorite, just an NFL favorite at this point. So you get a mesh concept. The core of the mesh concept is you get 2 shallow crosses from either side of the field, both running against each other, and they're meant to cross really tight so that if you get man coverage from the defense, they will potentially run into each other and spring one or potentially both receivers free. Typically, you also have this middle hook, which is De'Ami Brown on this occasion, where he goes slightly deeper and sits in the middle in case you get zone coverage. But the popular variant in the NFL now is you also add this wheel route or rail route, as some call it, from the running back. And he's going to run out towards the sideline. And if you get that man coverage that you're looking for, the mesh concept, you might get something like the linebacker here or the linebacker here trying to cover a really good running back or a really athletic running back on the wheel route. And sometimes they can lose leverage and struggle to cover that. And we used to see that the last few years with Jamin Davis quite often got beat on that kind of route. So it's a nice concept.
Shot at Jamin Davis there.
That was probably unnecessary. It wasn't planned, I promise.
He got a playoff check. I think he's fine.
So that's the core of the concept. Is you're looking at these shallow crosses, and as we run this through, you'll see he doesn't like the rail route to McNichols. That is covered pretty well. So he's going to come back inside to this mesh concept, and he's going to work the shallow cross to Terry McLaurin. And you'll see it here. He looks straight at Anzalone, who immediately works out, doesn't get picked by either of these routes, and takes away that. It doesn't take it away, but he's on top of it. And Jaden knows, right, I'm moving on to my next read. And Terry McLaurin is here coming across, and you're trying to get the pick. Zach Ertz could maybe do a little bit better of a job of flattening his route out, but you don't also want to make it too obvious that you're trying to pick this linebacker. And he doesn't necessarily need to either, because it is a linebacker, and Terry's already got a few steps going, so that linebacker's never going to catch. And Terry McLaurin runs open. We'll see the end zone angle for the pressure, because that makes this throw even better. But Jaden, as you can see, has a man in his face, waits as long as he possibly can for Terry to clear that underneath coverage, hits him relatively in stride, and Terry's able to turn upfield and not only pick up a first down, but nearly get a touchdown. And we'll see it from the end zone angle here.
And I talked about the offensive line doing a good job on the last time they sent an overload. This time was not as good. This one, again, you want Wiley to work down, because as you can see here, that interior pressure is going to get there a lot quicker. Yep. And it's going to be right in your face, but he still beats him.
I am assuming that this is a Trent Scott mistake, being his first time playing guard this year. rather than a Andrew Wiley mistake. But I could be wrong. It could be that they had a full slide on and Wiley didn't slide with it. But I would assume, personally, I would think Trent Scott's probably meant to peel back, or block that end once that blitzer comes and Wiley fans out to it, because they've got 3 guys on this side to handle the 3 on that side. But yeah, what ends up happening, whoever's at fault here, you get the defensive end stunting inside, getting a free run at Jaden Daniels, which is obviously never a good thing, but especially not on 4th and 2. But Jaden doesn't panic. A lot of quarterbacks would see this and be like, okay, I need to take off running, or I need to try to scramble past him.
Then they run right into the blitzing corner on the edge over there.
Exactly. But he just gets to the top of his drop. He keeps his drop. He knows if he keeps dropping back, he's going to gain depth, and that gives the defensive end more yards to make up. And he knows he's got Terry coming on this shallow cross, so he doesn't have to wait too long. And once Terry clears that linebacker, he knows he's got all this space to work with. So Jaden just holds on as long as he can, drops the arm angle a little bit to get it around this big body in his face, and delivers a great ball. Terry makes the catch, turns up the field, and gets a first down. So that was an example of what we talked about with dealing blitz, and B, clutch situations. That was 4th and 2, obviously big 4th and 2 in the game, and went a long way to the Commanders winning that game. This was a 3rd and 5, and this was on that final drive, just to really seal the game for them, with 4.5 minutes left, something like that, 4 minutes left. Lions had 3 timeouts.
And when the game's on the line, you go to John Bates. That's what we've all said.
That's what they all say. You go to your backup tight end when you need him. But this is a really nice concept. This is there's a couple different ways you could call this. It's a drive concept on this side of the field, and a drive concept, you've got a shallow cross from the outside receiver, and you've got a basic cross, which is essentially the same thing as a shallow cross, but at 10 yards of depth. I think this is Zacchaeus inside here. It could be De'Ami Brown. But you get the 2 crossing routes at different depths, and the idea you get a high-low there. On the backside here, I think it's Luke McCaffrey running a deep post.
Oh boy.
And then you've got the sail route from John Bates. Now, I would personally call this fullback sail. You might call it a drive with a corner route. Either way, it works out the same way. Bates is going to come across in motion into a fullback position. You got Jaden Daniels in the pistol with Austin Eckler behind him, and it's going to be a play action fake, and it's going to look like John Bates is inserting into the blocking scheme. And we've seen him do this quite a few times this year, where he motions across into this little fullback, H-back spot, and insert into the blocking scheme and be a lead blocker. But this time, instead of being a lead blocker, he's just going to actually release out into a route and run a corner route. And instead of him blocking, it's going to be the running back picking up that block, and then the Lions end up not blitzing, so he releases as well. But we'll run this on, and you'll get the play action fake. Lions see Bates inserting. You see both linebackers jumping up to the line of scrimmage. Obviously, it's 3rd and 5, and they're considering running out the clock late in the game. They want to make the Lions use their timeout. So even though it's 3rd and 5, not 3rd and 3, there's still a run is still very much an option. And when you see a fullback inserting into the blocking surface, you think, okay, this is definitely a run where we're charging down. So it makes this fake even better. And you see both of these linebackers end up letting John Bates just go completely freely because they are biting too heavily on the play action.
Yeah, and look where 40 is, who is at fault here. But look at where I don't know what this coverage is. It could be invert 2, and it could just be a very, very shallow cover 3 where, again, they are selling all out for the run.
I think it's a 3, and they're selling out for the run, and it's our rookie safety that had played 3 snaps going into this game. He doesn't play this well, but again, they're all selling out for the run, and it's a good run fake when you have a fullback inserting into the scheme. And you've got the deep post route here from McCaffrey. He's going to clear out that corner, and that's going to leave all this space wide open for John Bates on his corner route. And Jaden Daniels is just going to hit him. Great throw, great concept. For John Bates, that's a great catch. And again, you see all these guys selling all out on that run fake. Jaden Daniels pulled the ball at this point, but they're all biting heavily on the run. They're all still moving towards the line of scrimmage. Bates gets through, and by that point, it's too late for these guys to get back with him. The safety, especially, is really panicking at this point because he doesn't know who he's looking for. His helmet's looking back here.
He's thinking, I thought it was supposed to be a run. They're supposed to run this.
And Jaden fires a nice ball, and John Bates gets the 20-yard completion for essentially sealing the game. Made the Lions use the last few timeouts, got them down to the 2-minute warning, and obviously the Lions got another possession, and then Jeremy Chin got the interception that sealed it. But that really killed the game for the Lions. And then I thought, having looked at how Jaden came up clutch with those 3rd and 4th down conversions, and we saw how good he was against the blitz, I thought we would kind of round off Jaden Daniels with looking at his explosive plays, some of the deep throws. Earlier in the season, we saw he kind of struggled with some of those deep shots where they dialed up some shots and he would overthrow them, or he would miss them because he was trying to scramble, or he just didn't see them, or there was pressure to whatever reason. What we saw in this game, and what was much needed in this game, was he hit those explosive plays. And you only need a few of them, but when you play an explosive offense like the Detroit Lions, you need to be able to hit explosive plays to keep up with them.
I kind of jokingly tweeted out that they're going to need to score 40, and then they nearly did that in the first half. So you had to match their offense, and he was nearly flawless.
Yep. So this was another nice design from Cliff and his offensive staff. You've got 12 personnel, but they start the look with both tight ends outside, and they shift them in, which gives them a nice man zone indicator pre-snap. Because you can see out here that the cornerback out here and out here are currently lined up over the 2 tight ends, which indicates zone. And then when they shift those guys in, they then move down and guard the receivers, which again is a pretty good indication that it's zone. And so that gives Jaden Daniels a good pre-snap read. I'll actually, just before we carry on with the rest of that, I'll go back to that because I need to talk about the routes, because this is a slightly different concept from what you normally would see on these kind of play actions. The Commanders have used this look with 2 tight ends kind of to stay into block as a play action kind of foundation all year, and it's been pretty successful for them. But the play action concept you typically see would be Terry McLaurin over here running a deep post, and then De'Ami Brown running this kind of high cross that goes
kind of like a Yankee concept, essentially.
Exactly, Yankee concept is what a lot of people would refer to it as. And so, but what they actually have is they have both McLaurin and De'Ami Brown running high crossers. They just have them slightly different depths, and that makes a difference. And we'll get to why, but just note that on a normal version of this, you'd have McLaurin work much more vertically and somewhat outside, and then break inside to the post late. Whereas here, he's running more of a high cross like De'Ami Brown is. So we'll get to that as we run this through. So you get that man zone indicator. You see the defense shifting, the corners coming back inside, so it's quite clearly zone coverage. Now we'll get to here. We've got the Lions are dropping back into a cover 3, which again we kind of had a pretty good indicator of that pre-snap with that man zone indicator. You got your 4 underneath guys, and you've got your single high safety, and your 2 outside corners are playing a deep third each. Now, when you get these this concept, the one that you typically see with McLaurin running a deep post and a high cross underneath it, I think I might have drawn it up. Did I draw it up? Kind of, yeah. Typically what you would see is the safety would drive down on the high cross, and then the 2 corners would peel back and take away the deep post over the top. And essentially what you would have is you'd have the corners replacing the safety, and the safety would take away the underneath high cross to cover both routes. Because when you get this high cross and a safety attaches underneath it, you can typically throw the ball over the top. And so defense is adjusted to have the corner fall back off and take over the top of it. Now, with McLaurin running this high cross instead of the deep post, this corner thinks that the concept is being run from the other side. He thinks Dyami Brown is running the post from the other side of the field. But Dyami Brown's also running a high cross, and it's in fact running it underneath McLaurin. So what happens is this corner falls back thinking there's going to be a post route on the other side of the field. This corner falls back to match Terry McLaurin, and the safety also tries to match Terry McLaurin. Which
basically everyone thinks they're getting the high cross.
Everyone thinks they're getting the wrong sign. And what that does is it leaves this huge open field for Dyami Brown. And he just runs into it. And, Jaden Daniels sitting back here in the pocket. Protection's pretty nice off of a play action fake. He can see Dyami there. The corner is sinking back deep, trying to play a post route that's not there. And he rips it to him. Pretty much on the money. If you're being picky, you might have put a little bit more on it, but it wasn't a bad throw. And it was a, 30 yard completion, something like that.
I'm gonna need Dyami to get into the end zone next time. That's just me being picky, and also someone who bet on him to score an anytime touchdown. I was half right with my bet. I bet him for 6 catches, 90+ yards, threw a touchdown in there as well. Didn't get the touchdown. That would have been really nice, but I don't think he's ever going to actually outrun that guy. But
yeah. If the throw led him a little bit more, he kind of had to wait just a fraction. If the throw had led him a little bit more, he might have had a chance. But
you also have that underneath guy coming up, so you kind of have to play it a little bit behind. If you're kind of slightly late on it.
Yeah. And then we've got, I think this is the last clip I've got of Jaden Daniels. This is the throw of the game.
And I might argue one of his best throws of the career.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of good ones, and this is certainly up there because there's a lot going on in this, both from a mental aspect of mental processing from a quarterback standpoint, but also just the physical ability to deliver the throw that he delivers. So we've got a dagger concept, and we've seen this all year.
I love a dagger. I love a good dagger concept.
Everyone does. Everyone loves it. And for those that don't know, a dagger concept is you have a vertical clear out route from an inside receiver. It can be a slot, it can be a tight end, or it can be Dyami Brown motioning across into the slot here. The primary function of this route is to try to grab the attention of this safety and run him as far away as possible and vacate the middle of the field for this dig route from Terry McLaurin. And then basically, if you can clear that safety out of the way, you get Terry McLaurin against a corner that is more than likely playing outside leverage, and McLaurin's able to break in towards the middle of the field on that dig and be wide open for a nice catch and run. So that's the primary function of a dagger concept. That's what you're looking to do. Very rarely do you actually throw this deep over. Some teams teach it as the first read. Some teams teach it as an alert that if you get a certain look, you can alert to that. But more often than not, this is not a primary read. This is there to take away the deep coverage, and your first read is this dig route. Now, what makes this so impressive from Jaden Daniels is he works to Terry McLaurin initially, but he reads this safety cheating to Terry McLaurin, and he resets back to Dyami Brown. So we'll get into it here. You'll see Dyami Brown comes across in motion. Get the snap. Fake the handoff. And you can see the safety, rather than staying in the middle of the field, which is what his responsibility is here, he's meant to be a middle field safety. He cheats to Terry McLaurin's side. He knows that that's their number one receiver. That's the guy that Washington wants to get the ball to more often than not. So he's cheating that way, and he's sinking back deep towards Terry McLaurin's side of the field. Now, Jaden Daniels is dropping back in the pocket, and he's looking back here, and you can see this safety is cheating towards Terry McLaurin. So typically, as I said, Dyami Brown's job is to run that safety off and open
just run as fast as you can, as far as you can, essentially.
Exactly. And then that vacates this middle of the field to drive this into Terry McLaurin. But because the safety is cheating to Terry McLaurin, suddenly Jaden Daniels realizes, hang on, I've got essentially Dyami Brown one-on-one with all this field over here to work with. I'm just going to reset to Dyami Brown and take the deep shot. And boy, does he
And
take
it's a clear out route, but Diami does a great job of actually running it like a real route instead of just kind of being lazy. He stacks the defender pretty much instantly, which gives Jaden another great kind of look. You might be able to see it from this angle. But he stacks him right there, and that's just a great look. And you can see the safety's kind of already screwed in this spot.
That safety should be in the middle of the field, and he is outside the hash marks. And Jaden has recognized that. I'll come back to this replay in a minute.
About to say, I can take over him sliding in the pocket because it's incredible stuff.
Okay. Well, we'll just see the throw first because it's worth seeing once over. Because goddamn, it's an absolute dime.
Hopefully George and Doug let us cuss, but because I was going crazy watching this one live. But so on a dagger concept, it's going to be a long developing concept. Like, it's going to take a long time to develop. You're running these routes deep. One guy is running to the end zone essentially, and the other guy is breaking it 15, 20 yards deep. So you're going to need some time. And with the Lions playing a lot of heavy man coverage, they're going to send blitz. You have to be aware of where pressure is coming from, and you have to always kind of feel it. And he does a perfect job of feeling this off of what is technically his blind side, but it's just perfect.
We'll run it through here. So we get blitz up the middle from the linebacker. We get another DB, I think, coming here. Mm-hmm. Coleman loses off the edge, gets his hand swatted away, and then gets caught leaning and lunging a little bit. You can see his center of gravity is leaning too far forward. That has been a problem for him. And especially it was one in college because he'd go with a two-hand punch. And when you punch with two hands, you tend to lean yourself over your feet a little too much and be a little bit lungy.
I think this has nothing to do with Jane Daniels, but one thing when I was kind of watching Coleman in college is he was dealing with like knee injuries, I think, knee and ankle injuries. Right. And he kind of resorted to, with his kind of injuries, just kind of, like you said, going with that heavy two-hand punch. And I think he's doing that again recently, which is why we saw a lot of struggles last week. He was much better this week, but like you said, that's when you kind of see him struggling, is when he is way too heavy with his hands.
Yep. So you can see the result of him lunging a little bit is he loses control of this block. A defensive end gets underneath him. He starts to come around the edge, and he's going to close pretty quickly on Jaden Daniels here. Now Daniels feels that pressure at the top of his drop, and he knows he wants to get back to Diami Brown. But he knows he's going to need a little bit more time for Brown to develop that route. So he takes a little slide step to his right just to buy himself an extra yard.
And typically what you see with a young quarterback and a scrambling quarterback is, okay, I see this massive B gap in between the left tackle and the left guard. I'm just going to go, especially because it's man coverage as well. So, you're going to have room to run, and he probably would be running a long way. But this kind of speaks to, him still wanting to be in the pocket first and foremost rather than anything else.
Yeah, and he takes that slide step, quickly sets his feet, and he's already starting his throwing motion. You see, if he didn't take that yard step, he's getting hit as he's delivering this throw, and that one step to his right is all he needs to buy himself the time. And suddenly now he's got this Diami Brown in a really good look against that slot corner, and the safety is still over here, nowhere near where he's meant to be. And then he just delivers a just ridiculous throw. And it just doesn't get better than that.
No. And again, like the drift, it might seem like nothing. It might seem like, he's just, okay, cool. He sees pressure and he's just going to, drift a little bit to his right. But again, it's like, it's stuff that young guys aren't going to do. Like, they're not used to that sort of thing. Because again, in college, they know that they're the best athlete on the field. They can make anyone miss at any time, and it doesn't matter. We don't have to play on time. And he's just kind of already got it down, and nothing phases him. He feels pressure at all times. And right now he's playing almost perfect. Yeah.
It really doesn't get better than what he's doing at this point in time. So that was all I had for Jaden. I think we got 15 minutes or so. Well, I guess.
Well, I told Doug we might go for 3 hours. We could just rewatch the game. I'll just pull up the film, rewatch the game, break down every single play. We might be here till Sunday, but Yeah, we got plenty of time.
We got some stuff on the run game, so we'll go through the run game.
And it was actually good this week. It was it's not just bad stuff this time.
No, it's good stuff. And I thought it was worth highlighting because it was good stuff. And they did. The coaching staff deserves a lot of credit because they did some good things to really help out the run game. And one of those key things was, I think the bigger intention was to undisguise some of these blitzes that they knew the Lions were going to throw at them. So they went with a lot of RPOs quite early in this game. And they made a conscious decision to adjust the splits of their receivers. Quite often in the season, we've seen a formation like this where you have a tight end isolated to the left of the formation and three receivers in a bunch, but typically that bunch would be quite tight. Now, in this game, they made a conscious decision, and you'll see this in quite a lot of these runs, or RPOs at least, where they've split those receivers out just that little bit extra wider. And the reason for that is that it puts any kind of slot, nickel, safety blitz in a really, really tough spot.
It's a big college thing as well, just because you deal with not really a wider field, but with the hash marks wider, it's a big thing in college. You see it. I see it all the time with Tennessee because I watch them every week, but Tennessee's offense is huge on this. They're pretty extreme with it, and they have their wide receivers pretty much on the sideline, which you don't see a lot in the NFL. No. But it's, like Mark said, it's a way to kind of create space.
Yeah. And as I say, I don't think this was primarily a thing for the run game. I think it was primarily a thing to try to uncover these blitzes because, as we talked about, the Lions wanted to blitz early and often. And and they love to send nickel pressure, any kind of safety or slot corner, they love to blitz those guys. And if you're, and we'll come to it in a minute, if you're Brian Branch in the slot here and you want to blitz, if you start out by the numbers and Jaden Daniels is on the far hash marks, you're never going to get to Jaden Daniels in time to make the blitz worthwhile. So you then have to make a decision. Do you not blitz or do you give yourself away by coming off of the slot and then lining up inside here, giving yourself a shorter distance to blitz, but then making it obvious that you are blitzing and giving Daniels and the offensive line time to adjust to pick that blitz up.
And then you give up the fact that you don't have a numbers advantage to the screen side, and then you can just kind of simply flip it out.
Exactly. So that is what I think the primary function of it was. But the secondary function of it is it turned out to help the offense, the run game quite a lot. So what you see here is you get these three receivers outside here, and the Lions are conscious of that. They know that Washington wants to throw some RPOs and screens out here. So they have their three DBs over there, but they've also got linebacker, I think this is Jack Campbell, just edged slightly out of the box. You can see right tackle Andrew Wiley is here inside the hash marks, and Campbell is just outside of them. So he's just outside this tackle box, which for Washington means they've got essentially four defenders outside the tackle box over the screen, which leaves them with six defenders in the box against six blockers. And if you know maths,
it's just a numbers. It's just a numbers game.
It's completely a numbers game. You essentially the Lions. Essentially Washington has a hat for a hat up front here, and there's no free defender to tackle Brian Robinson. So as long as every blocker is able to make a block, Robinson should be able to go free.
Which was a problem these last couple of weeks. They could not make a block. They did this last week.
And a big part of why they were able to make a block, I think, is the schemes they used. So obviously we talked about the scheme RPO setting up these good looks, but they also adjusted their run scheme. Part of their run scheme success early in the year was they used quite a diverse set of schemes. They went gap heavy, but they'd run power, they'd run counter, they'd run GT counter, they'd run trap schemes, wham schemes, and they'd run sweep schemes like this. And you would essentially see it where any lineman or even a tight end could pull either to the edge or back across the line. So they could pull in any direction on any given play. And for a defensive lineman, that's a nightmare because if you're just a zone team, you know, okay, if I line up here, the center's going to block me. Whereas if you're pulling linemen in every other direction, on any given play, this center is getting blocked down by the guard, or he could get blocked by the the center, or the other guard could be blocking him, or he could be getting trapped by the tight end, or a tackle could be trapping him. There's so many different options that you then can't just fire off the ball. You're having to worry about, okay, where's the blocker coming from? And that was what they did so well early in the year, and they kind of got away from that. And that led to some of their struggles. But here they get back to doing a lot of different gap scheme stuff. So this is a sweep scheme. A lot of people would call it a buck sweep. You're pulling both guards. So Nick Allegretti at left guard is going to pull and kick out the edge defender, and then you're going to have Sam Cosmi at right guard. He's also going to pull, but he's going to wrap around for. Normally it's meant to be the first linebacker, but in this situation with the formation that the Lions got, this is a corner in the box. And then you're going to have John Bates at tight end. He's going to work back and pick up the Alex Anzalone, the other linebacker. So that's a whole lot of talking to get into a very simple.
Well, I mean, but that's like the run game is very – there's a lot of moving parts to it. And with Washington's offense, like you said, they pull a lot. Like we have them with – we call it pull lead. We just kind of bucket all these guys when you're pulling from the front side. And they had the second most in the NFL. Yeah. They're the only team, I think, in the postseason to run it more than 4 times. So they're really one of the only ones that are doing this at a consistent rate. Yeah, they've done it 11 times. Next highest is the Eagles with 6. But then Washington's also got the counter and the power. And so you don't know who's pulling. And sometimes that could be a problem because sometimes if your offensive line isn't coached well, you don't know who's pulling. But they've done, at least this last week, a really good job of this. And it's one of the things that you are going to miss with Cosmi, because when you pull Cosmi, he's one of the best out there in space. So you're going to miss that. But I think, again, you got to keep throwing these sort of things in there. And it's so impressive that they can do this in no huddle as well.
It's an incredibly diverse set of run schemes from a no huddle. Which is very impressive. It's impressive. It would be impressive enough if you were huddling to have this wide variety of run schemes installed, because that's a lot of work going into that. But to be able to get to every one of them from a no huddle is even more impressive. But yeah, this is the end zone angle, so this is a better angle of the run part. I think
we just talked for 15 minutes before ever showing the actual run play. Which might be a big problem.
So this is Jack Campbell, as I talked about, outside the tackle box. So he's going to be counted as outside the box. He's going to be counted as part of the screen over here. They're running away from him, so he's never going to be able to get back across and make this play. Certainly not within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. So we're focusing on the guys in front of us here. And you get Nick Allegretti gets a pull. The edge cuts him, but he does a nice job of getting down low. Then you got Cosmi here. He's going to go and blow up this corner that's trying to fit. And I've been pretty critical of Sam Cosmi in the past because he can kind of whiff on some of these sometimes because he's such a good athlete that you kind of gets in space and then it's like, I'm right here already. What do I do to the guy? And I just want him to just go and blow guys up more often like this. And boy, does he blow this guy up, and you'll see him give him a nice shove and throw him out of the way. So I just wanted to highlight that block from Cosmi. I'd love to see that more from him because he's very much capable of doing that. But if we just wind it back a second, you'll see the result of Cosmi doing that and the whole scheme working nicely. You get a nice down block from Coleman pinning the defensive tackle inside. You get John Bates doing a really nice job on Anzalone. He's meant to pin him inside, but Anzalone gets outside, and Bates doesn't panic. You'd see a lot of guys being like, oh God, I meant to put him inside. I've got to fight for that leverage.
I was going to mention that one of the things that I kind of see a lot with this scheme is even with power and counter, again, when they're trying to down or get up to that second level guy, they freak out and they want to keep trying to get him inside, but use his momentum to your advantage and block him where he wants to go. And
exactly. So if this was exactly as it was meant to be drawn out, Bates would have the linebacker sealed here. Cosmi would kick out and you'd have the lane where Bates is. But because the linebacker got outside, Bates didn't panic. He's just like, okay, I'll let him go outside and I'll adjust my job and see them out, kick him outside. And suddenly the lane just changes from being where Bates is to where Bates should have been. And it's an easy adjustment for Robinson. You got that seal inside from Coleman. And you get the kick out from Allegretti, Cosmi, and now Bates. and this is as big a lane as you'll get in the NFL, especially in a playoff game. And Robinson goes and makes a nice play to avoid Campbell in the open field and picks up 14 yards. So that was a lot to talk about for one run.
That was 20 minutes on one run play.
But the point of it was to show, A, the scheme was really nice to help the run, but B, the point of the RPOs throughout the game was for this exact play. You see Brian Branch is what I talked about earlier. They love to blitz Brian Branch off the slot. Now, because they've got this widened split from this bunch set over here, which, by the way, this is the exact same play they just ran. It's just flipped the other way. Because they've got this bunch set out here, Brian Branch is caught. Do I go and line up where I was before over the top of this bunch set? Or do I come in and not be able to get anywhere on the blitz because it's just too much ground to make up? Or do I do what he does here, which is shuffle inside, get into this kind of half space where he's not really out over the screen. It's kind of obvious that he's going to blitz. And that's what he tries to do because he is actually blitzing. And then what that leaves them with, by the time the ball is snapped, Brian Branch is basically a defensive tackle at this point. And you can see it just play the numbers game 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And so
that's about the best numbers you're going to ever really get.
Yeah. So you throw this ball out to Terry McLaurin. Zacchaeus, I think it is, does a nice job on the outside receiver, and De'Ami Brown, I think I might have got those mixed up. It's those two blocking, but one of them's doing one guy, one of them's blocking the other, and McLaurin just breaks through, and then it's a foot race, and
he's not going to lose those.
He's not going to lose those. So that
I mean, you at that point, once you throw that screen, you've put this safety in a horrible spot. Like he needs to fit outside. But he's trying to make a play. He needs to fit it back into. If he does his job here, he fits it back into his teammates. But you still then have McLaurin on the inside, one-on-one against a safety.
Yeah,
we just saw him outrun. So the safety there is just screwed. Like no matter what he does, it's not going to end well. He almost makes the play actually, but and then you've got 4.3 speed that you're just not going to catch up to.
Nope. So that was the primary function of what those wide split RPO screens were in the game plan for, was to attack those blitzes that they knew the Lions were going to bring. But the other benefit of it is, as we kind of saw with the first run, but on this one you'll see it as well, is you get really good looks to run the ball into. This is the same wide split with a bunch set over here. You're running the tunnel screen over here, and this time you're running another sweep play, but this time instead of the guards pulling, it's center Tyler Biotish and right tackle Andrew Wiley. I think Trent Scott might have been in the game at this point. I'm not sure. So they switch it. Instead of the guards, they pull the center and right tackle. But it's the same fundamental idea. You're pulling your lineman to the edge to block the edge, and Robinson's going to run the sweep to the edge. But what you see here is, and you'll see it once I start the play, is Jack Campbell here is the fourth guy, as he has been the whole time. He is pointing out here, being like, we're light over here. We've got 2 over 3, which is what we just gave up a touchdown on. The safety's playing deep, so he's worried about that. So, it's do I stay inside to try to help the run because we're getting run over? Or do I come outside and try to help against the screen? In the end, he panics because the safety's too deep and they've only got 2 guys over there, and Brian Branch is signaling to him, hey, we need help out here. So Campbell's going to drop out, sink back, and try to help out. And that, again, takes him out of the tackle box. And now he takes off running to join the run fit. But at this point, it's too late. He's outside the hash mark, and the ball is being run in the other direction. So Washington only really needs to worry about these guys on the front side. And again, they get those nice pulls, and Brian Robinson's able to follow some blocks and end up picking up 7 or 8 yards. So again, you can see it better from this angle when Jaden's handing this ball off. He's at the hash mark. Jack Campbell is at the other hash mark. That's just too much ground to ask any linebacker to try to make up when the ball's being run in the opposite direction. So you're not worried about him. They're also not worried about the defensive end because he's being held with the threat of the read option. So you get really nice numbers up front here with essentially 6 on 5
And it's really not even blocked particularly well.
No,
This could have been a massive gain.
It could have been a touchdown. Had Wiley sealed his guy and not got too far, and then Biotish had able to kind of hold this.
Yeah.
I think Robinson gets caught in two minds here, whether to try to cut this back behind Biotish or continue with his path to the edge. And I think at this point he's probably wishing he'd cut it back inside because Biotish loses control of it. And then he tries to lower his shoulder and does a nice job bouncing off contact.
But again, it's still a 7-8 yard gain there, and that's
exactly
in the run game. That's a win. Like if you're getting anything over 4 or 5 yards consistently, that's a win every single time. It might look weird because you're only getting 4 yards or whatever, but that's considered a win. Like on 1st and 10, if you get 4 or 5 yards there, you're putting yourself in a good spot.
Yep, 100%. So we talked do we want to keep going? I know we've hit an hour, but
we've hit an hour, so I think they might kick us off.
Well, I thought we'll do one more because I like this one.
Okay.
Where we talked about how they were really diverse at the start of the year with their run schemes, and they kind of got away from it down the stretch, and that's why the run game kind of suffered, in my opinion. Well, obviously the blocking up front wasn't particularly great either, but I think they weren't helped out because earlier in the year they were so diverse, whereas they got very vanilla down the stretch. So we've seen them have this wide bunch set RPO tunnel screen option over here, but they didn't just stick to that sweep scheme. They mixed things up, and that puts a lot of stress on the defense. And we've seen them run that sweep this way the whole time, but this time they're going to run a same side tackle pull. So again, it's a different scheme. It's still pretty much a power scheme, where instead of the guard pulling and wrapping around for the first linebacker, you're going to have right tackle Andrew Wiley do it. But it's just a different look for the defense to sort out. And again, the help comes from having this RPO threat. You got Jack Campbell out here trying to play the third guy over the top of it. Which means you've got a corner and a safety acting as linebackers in here, which is always nice for the offensive line to work against. And so, we run the tackle pull. Wiley's going to pull around, wrap around, block. And I think I've got the end zone angle, but they get a nice 8 yards out of it.
Yeah, and it's kind of a good point to bring up that they have a safety and a corner in here because usually these linebackers, they kind of know how to fit it. They've seen power counter millions of times. They know that they need to get over the top, but safeties and corners, they don't. And even if he fits this right, you've got a safety one-on-one with Eckler. He doesn't fit it right. He's supposed to, once he sees pull, get over the top. Maybe you could try a run through, but typically doesn't work too well. He goes the wrong way, and you're just putting guys in positions they're not really comfortable with. He needs to be I'm trying to draw on your screen, but he needs to be on the other side of where he is, essentially.
Yeah, he stays on this side and was looking to drop back into coverage, hoping that it was a coverage play, and ends up fitting it here, where you can see there's already defenders, and what ends up happening is Wiley gets the kick out. He should be here or here.
But again, even if he fits this right, you've got Eckler on a safety instead of Eckler on a running or a linebacker. It's just you're putting yourself in favorable positions with the way you've aligned your offense. And I think that's probably the best thing they've done all year. Like the way they line up is just so unique, and the different packages they have, the different things they run, it's just you just never know what's coming. And I think that's why they've been so successful.
Yeah.
Mix that in with they're doing it on no huddle, and it's just like it's incredible that they can pull this off.
Yeah, I kind of like. Can we do one more?
I'm okay. My wife's not here. I don't have anything to do right now, so
right. Let's just do one more. This will be the last one, I promise. So this is a slightly different scheme, but it plays on into everything we've been talking about. So you have the very college look that you were talking about with the wide receivers split way out wide. Mm-hmm. You've got a unique personnel group because it's 4 wide receivers, 1 running back, no tight ends on the field at all. And they did this a couple times in the game, and it was kind of interesting. It was a nice new little personnel that they were working out of. But essentially, the idea is the same. If the Lions want to blitz, they're going to have to pretty much telegraph to Washington, hey, we're blitzing by putting these guys in here. By having them outside the numbers, it's okay. Well, we're covering, we're not blitzing, and what in turn that does is it leaves the box pretty light. And what they're going to run is a wipe scheme, and I'll get to the end zone angle because I like the end zone angle of this better. So a wipe scheme is a variation of a zone scheme, and essentially in a zone scheme you'd have everyone blocking in the same direction. So Coleman would be going out here. You'd probably have Allegretti climbing to the linebacker, Biotish covering the nose tackle, the right guard, Trent Scott would be going up to this linebacker, Wiley would be trying to seal this defensive tackle off on the backside, and then you'd probably have Jaden Daniels reading this defensive end to essentially block him. But the thing that Washington does differently here, the little adjustment is known as a wipe scheme, is instead of having Allegretti, who's a big guy that's not very good at climbing up to the second level and blocking in space, instead of having him do that job, they have him seal the nose tackle inside. And instead of having Biotish, who's a kind of a little bit of a lighter, more athletic center that doesn't deal with power as amazingly as he could, instead of having him try to move this big nose tackle and get movement on him, they just let Allegretti seal him, and then Biotish can pull around and use his athleticism to go climb up and reach the linebacker. So it's still essentially a zone scheme. These guys are just trading responsibilities. But again, it's a variation that you mix in once or twice a game. And they hadn't mixed it in since the Giants game back in week 9 was the last time I saw this. And they were doing it on Dexter Lawrence constantly. And it makes sense when Dexter Lawrence is the monster of a defensive tackle that he is.
And the Eagles have a monster of a defensive tackle themselves. And this is the type of stuff that you can see them do to take advantage of trying to block Jalen Carter.
Yeah. So that's essentially what they're going to do here. Again, Jaden's going to read this end. So you essentially got 5 blockers on 5 defenders. The safety's not part of this at this point in time because he's too deep. So this is a great look to run this into. And what you'll see is Allegretti just does enough on this defensive tackle. Biotish pulls and Anzalone fits this really quickly. And that gives Biotish a chance to come around and kind of seal him. Normally he'd be looking to kick him out and move him, but because Anzalone fit it real quick, Biotish does a nice job of adjusting, the opposite of what Bates did earlier, whereas instead of
block him where he wants to go. Like if it's not working, block him where he wants to go.
Exactly, and he seals him inside, and that kind of helps out Allegretti with the defensive tackle as well, kind of seal that. Coleman gets a decent kick out here, and then you just see this is a huge lane.
Also, you could just look at this still frame here and just look at the effect of Jaden Daniels because you've got 3 guys that are trying 90. I think. Well, if you go back a little bit to the start of it, Wiley gets kind of beat inside pretty quickly, but the guy here thinks that Daniels is keeping it and just stops. I think it's 91 here. He wins inside, and he's got a chance to completely blow this play up, but he's worried about Jaden Daniels, and he ends up on the wrong side of the play.
And you've also got the linebacker thinking Jaden Daniels is keeping it.
And now Trent Scott's got no one to block.
He's scraping to the edge where he should be, where Trent Scott is. You got the safety over here, also worried about Jaden Daniels keeping the ball. And what this adds up to is Austin Eckler gets untouched through the line of scrimmage, and then he just has open field. Yeah. And this is where, if you're talking about the future of a Commander's offense, if you get a Jahmyr Gibbs in this spot, this is a touchdown. No disrespect to Austin Eckler. He's a very,
that sounded like back. A lot of disrespect there. For me.
He's a very good back, and he picks up 35 yards on this. But he is a little bit older. He doesn't have the speed that he necessarily once had, and he gets chased down eventually by the corners. But a Jahmyr Gibbs type doesn't get caught on that. That was the last run scheme I wanted to talk about. So. The other point of that is it's just another variation of schemes where, again, you don't know which lineman's going to pull. And I think that was a real key to them early in the year. And when they had a bunch of success running the ball, and down the stretch, they went a lot more into just basic zone schemes with read options attached. And the read option parts obviously worked, but I think they got a little bit too plain. And in this game, we saw them get back to their diversity, and I think the staff deserve a lot of credit for getting to that, and obviously the success was clear to see.
Yeah, and again, I'll say it a million times, them doing this at no huddle, it just makes it even more impressive.
Yeah. Yep.
So, all right, well, usually George would do some sort of outro here, so yeah, I'm just gonna kind of leave it as is, and we're just gonna head on out. So thanks for watching.
Yep. Bye.